Hello and welcome to the Gen AI podcast. I'm Cheryl Tyers, founder and CEO of Quirk, an Australian product and tech recruitment agency. And today we're here with Charles Cormier, founder of over 50 companies and counting, but most recently the founder and CEO of Podpire, a business which helps others scale their own podcasts whilst building the largest community of CEO podcasters in the process. How are you today, Charles?
I am great, and that was a great intro.
Thank you. Well, look, today we're going to be talking to Charles about his own journey using AI, his very successful podcasting system, and his pretty interesting own life journey. And most importantly, we're going to be finding out about how Charles has helped others to use AI to 10x their own ability to scale their businesses. Charles, tell us more about yourself.
Yes. Well, thank you for the intro. I think you did very well there. Maybe for an intro to the audience, you and I, we worked together for your pod, and yeah, you did very good there. You and I were talking about nerve-wracking moments. And I need to tell the audience one, it'll give a nice preface into what I'm into nowadays, but I went on Dragon's Den in, I think that was 2018 or something like that, for my nootropic business, which was my first serious business, by the way. Invested a bunch of money into it for researches on the supplement. It was made by 2 PhDs. We had one for students that had a lot of caffeine, one for entrepreneur, and we even had a product for Alzheimer in the pipeline. And yeah, basically we were waiting to be called on the show. You know, you wait in this little room, and we were dead last that day. You know, I think they wanted to keep the best for the end. So there were 10 other startups behind us, and we were high on our own supply with the product that we were selling, which had a lot of caffeine. And we were repeating for like 3 to 5, or I think it was 8 hours in the end, waiting to be called, right? So I was talking to you prior to the pod about nerve-wracking moment, and then finally they called you, you know, and then you're like, and this is live TV, you know, there's no like, there's no take two, you know, if you fuck up live on camera, and they use it against you on the show, actually, for like material, because drama is good, right? And fucking up, humans like others to see other humans fuck up. So long story short, did this nootropic company, had these agencies also back in my days to finance this whole thing, because this business was not profitable. Some days we were in the green, some others we were in the red. We were heavily reliant on Facebook ads and Insta ads. I was also running a Facebook ads agencies back in these days. Made great money with agencies, hire a bunch of humans, managed over 1,000 humans in my career. And long story short, I decided to let go of my full workforce this year. So it's me and my AIs nowadays. And yeah, the podcast industry, a bunch of people are like, yeah, this is oversaturated, but it's not. And it can be used as a lead gen mechanism also to fuel the growth in your business. So I teach people on how to start their own podcasts, mainly nowadays, and to scale some and make a whole bunch of money with podcasting.
For sure. And wow, crazy times with the dragons. And surely knowing all about nootropics that you do, Charles, you would have known that ingesting a product containing a high amount of caffeine would have added surely only to the anxiety that you were feeling.
Right. Now, I want to tell, I think that's an important insight that I'm getting nowadays, you know, like people, their caffeine intake, they need to be careful with it. Like you and I were biohackers, and nowadays, since the last 2 weeks, my caffeine intake has been way too high, and my sleep is like less good as a result. And if I sleep less good, all my other biomarkers are low, you know. So be aware of what your caffeine intake limit is. Me, I'm sensible to caffeine, so it's probably 200, 300 milligrams of caffeine. But my partner in that venture, his caffeine intake, he could go up to like 900 milligrams of caffeine, which is the equivalent of like 9 cups of coffee. So wow. Know that intake, because yes, caffeine is an amazing performance drug for the brain, but also for your athletic career, if you do some sport, if you go to the gym. So yeah, that could be a first little insight for the audience. I mean, if you're not drinking coffee as well, it's a memory booster, right? And it's basically an aging molecule. It's an antioxidant, so you can age way quicker brain-wise. And if we know that Alzheimer and dementia are top diseases nowadays, also brain strokes, well, basically you need to take that one to live a long and happy life.
Well, given that you're in Mexico and I'm in Australia, and it's only 8 o'clock in the morning, currently I'm pre-caffeine, so hopefully this still goes well for me. But look,
Yeah,
Charles, as the CEO of Podpire, your mission is essentially to scale podcasts. So how do AI tools assist in scaling podcast systems, and what challenges have you come up against in this process?
Yeah, so AI tools I use a bunch. So starting with the outreach, Apollo, you and I are using it. There's some AI personalized intro line that do a fairly good job at just proving to the person that you're talking to, like, hey, I know what you do. Here's your 16 years. Congrats on that at this company, for example. Here's your company mission. That will hook a bunch of people, like people that are not used to being outreached to by AIs. Then if you want to go more in depth, nowadays I use tools like Persona and Clay to have very personalized outreach. For example, in my cold email company, if I tell them that, hey, your ICP is fintech founders, CEO of large banks, and CROs at healthcare companies, if I send them that in the intro of the email, they'll know like who I am and my seriousness, the fact that I already researched their companies and who they could target. So you can do that with Clay and Persona, for example. That's on the front end. Now, when it comes to recording the pod itself, I mean, there's a bunch of tools. Video editing tools are not there yet, but there's a bunch of people that use Descript, for example, to have subtitles to eliminate the as, the ums in the podcast. On the backend side of it, I love Opus.ai that does some shorts out of the video. So these could be 3 tools. And to me, podcasting, the future of it, would be a Charles AI that you would interview, or vice versa. It would be a Cheryl AI interviewing the Charles, and you being able to scale that, right? Because I have 15, 20 pods a day. That's a lot. That's a lot of time requests. And I mean, we could talk about a whole array of tools, but I'll leave it to that.
Nice, thank you. And look, you mentioned Apollo there as one of the tools you use, and I noticed that you accredit Apollo for changing your life and giving you a real transformative experience. So could you tell us a bit more about that and about how AI tools like Apollo have really changed the landscape for business, and particularly in lead generation?
Right. Let's start with my agencies, right? So I had multiple agencies: AdWords agency, website agency, had a Facebook ads agency. I had an the call center at some point. So basically I was managing 200 people a day making some calls. I had an agency for realtors that would give them data. And at some point I had a LinkedIn outreach agency, which was about outreaching to people on LinkedIn. And then LinkedIn decided to limit the outreach of 500 people a day to 50 a day. So I was like, oh shit, what do I do at that point? And that's when I started A/B testing cold email. There was one guy that worked for me that started doing that, and was like, okay, that's interesting. So I began researching a bunch of tools, including Apollo. Apollo is $100 a month. It's 10,000 contacts. You can plug it with SendGrid, which I was already familiar with because I would use it for email marketing. SendGrid is $15 a month. And you create a bunch of mailboxes on Namecheap, and voila, you have like a fully scalable emailing system. So with that cold email system, I could generate clients by investing very few of my time and energy. And I was like, holy moly, this is game changing. And a bunch of people don't want to use cold email because they think it's spammy, they think it's illegal, but it's in a gray zone. And that's the advantage of that tool. So basically, me in the last 10 years, I wanted to create the business that will create other businesses. And that system right there, that Apollo system, allowed me to A/B test a bunch of products with a bunch of markets and see where's the fit. So for me, that's why it was life-changing. First, it generates a whole bunch of money because I have a cold email agency as well. I have a bunch of other agencies, and cold email generates clients. That's really logic. But also I can A/B test more innovative and risky startup ideas and these can yield multiples of millions. For example, next year, I'll be focusing on private equity, having them as clients, putting my own capital into acquiring some businesses and selling them, obviously. And then I won't be playing in the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. I'll be playing the millions, so that's how life-changing that is.
Big things are ahead. So looking at your involvement with Clutch GPT as well, just following on from that indicates a focus on AI tools for direct sales. Could you share a few specific instances where AI has made a significant impact in these areas?
Yeah, so another part of my time nowadays is partnering with folks that can create nice AI SaaS, for example. I've talked about the Charles AI, but another cool, obvious application for AI and GPT can be replies. So Clutch GPT is, I receive reply, right, with your campaign that we're doing right now for the podcast. And then instead of using a template and replying one by one, it's automatically wired to an AI box that is Cheryl and analyze the data of the reply. And the reply is like a Venn diagram of like both. So it says, okay, and the AI questions that you do for your pod, it could be included in that reply, right? So imagine having interest from someone that would say, yes, I want to be on your podcast, and then replying it in 5 minutes saying, hey, I checked you out and dang, here would be the questions. Here's why you should come on the pod. Here's why we're a good fit. And a human-like response, right? And then you get a bunch of superstars guests on the pod, or it could be used in a sales context. So that is what Clutch GPT is. That's an amazing use case for AI. So we would have cold email right from the start. That could be AI, but there's already a bunch of brands doing it like Clay and Persona. But that also what we do at Clutch is the reply phase of things to make sure that people actually convert into meetings.
Nice. And I noticed you use listraid.com as well, and that one focuses on swapping or selling lists essentially. So how, Charles, do you navigate the ethical considerations in the business of list swapping, and what precautions do you take to ensure the responsible use of that data?
That's a good question. Well, first, ListRate is a failure so far. I haven't given up on the idea. Why? Because if you're subscribed to my newsletters lately, I've been giving a bunch of lists and people have huge interest for lists, especially AI lists. Okay, so I get a bunch of replies of people wanting these lists. The premise with ListRate was that data is ubiquitous nowadays. Emails, names, LinkedIn URLs, and data on people in the B2B realm, it's becoming free for basically anyone. So people have a bunch of lists, right? So anyone using Apollo for a while, they must have accumulated at least 2 million contacts like I did, right? And then what I can do is share my 2 million against their 2 million and get, in the end, 4 million total. It's a win-win. But yeah, my main mechanism of lead gen for that one has been cold email. And so far, people are pretty reclusive. They don't want to share. They think it is their personal list that they obtain through people's permission and so forth. So that's the challenge I'm hitting with that one. What I should do, and actually I can do that, and thank you for giving me that idea, is I use a tool called Ample Market, which gives me basically all Apollo users' data. And I would just email them and tell them like, hey, do you want to trade your Apollo list from mine? By the way, I think that's against their terms and conditions, but everyone does it nowadays because data is ubiquitous, So basically, to answer your question, well, yes, if people subscribed and, if we trade lists, that can be tricky. Pretty sure that's also not legal, so we need to be careful and stay in the realm of, cold contacts and data that is available on Apollo, Ample Market, Contact Out, and these tools, not like newsletter lists.
I see. Great. And look, back to your, your partnership, actually, I was looking at with EO Fire for podcast mentoring. How do you feel the integration of AI contributes to the visibility of top CEO and founders using that?
Yeah, well, okay, EO Fire, John Lee Dumas, JLD, a legend in the podcasting world. So He charges to have guests on, right? It's like 5K, which is pretty hefty, but it's worth it because he has a huge audience and he's the #1 entrepreneur podcast since pretty much forever. So it's worth it. And yeah, if I bring in a client, I take a percentage of it. So that's the deal here. I think John, if you listen to the pod that I did with him, he is thinking of selling his business, and good for him, because he really systematized his business so that it can run with or without him. By the way, he doesn't fully want out of his business. He still wants to do the interviews. So AI in this case would be to have a JLD AI doing the interviews, right? Because what does John want? Probably more time. He also wants a big exit and the big money. But, I have my thesis on businesses. Some businesses of mine, I do want to sell sometimes when I have zero passion and it's not hitting my ikigai. But I'm more a believer into massive cash flow, right? Why sell a business if you're getting paid like 10 to 100K a day? There's no real reason. You can't take your lifestyle to a higher level at some point. So I would just AIify the crap out of everything. His systems, have an assistant, have an AI John do the interview, post-interview, automatically send an email, and then some shorts with Opus Pro. And yeah, that would be fully automated. And that's what I would do in that case. And if it's from my end and selling these interviews with John, I would obviously deploy a cold email AI campaign and have people buy them, because yeah, it can be a game changer to be on EO Fire.
Maybe that could be your next business, Charles. A business that just AIifies any business that people can't be bothered to run anymore.
I've tried that. Yeah, it's I forgot the name of that one, but basically we GPTize, we try to GPTize businesses, so we create their own chat GPT, for example. And so far, there's a lot of demand for it. I offer a free chat GPT, so a Cheryl GPT, for example, for free, right? And then people are like, yeah, I want it for free. And then I send them, and then it's silence, it's crickets, because people will take for whatever you have to offer them for free. So I'm still trying to figure that one out. And also, I'm not sure if it hits my ikigai, like it seems that there's a lot of time to develop a custom GPT for a lot of businesses, and my price points, they start at $750 for customized chatbot. And to me, it's not high enough. So I'm still trying to figure that one out and still not sure if I should get into that.
Yeah, fair enough. Look, your personal venture into extreme fitness and the creation of certifiedgrit.com is pretty fascinating. How do AI and technology play a role in shaping the mindset and approach to fitness in your community?
Yeah, so that one hits ikigai big time. The power of fitness is just humongous. Every time we have lows, for example, this year I started sort of on a low, the economy was not the best and there was a bunch of things happening in my life. So I turned to fitness, and extreme fitness, that is, so extreme fitness. And what's cool about that business itself is that, yeah, you can film yourself like from a group perspective. It's a bunch of CEOs, and we do an ultra hit, I call. So it can be 1,000 push-ups, 2,000 squats, for example, and a bunch of crunches. And that takes like 3 to 4 hours. It's really hard. You feel bodily pain for like 2 weeks after that. And it just changes your mind. Just yesterday I was listening to David Goggins training the UFC athlete, Tony Ferguson, he had a lot of demons, Tony Ferguson. And Goggins is just a plain savage, and a lot of people criticize the training that Goggins has Tony go through, which is like lunges for an hour and a half. You just lunge and walk for like 2 miles or something like that. It's just plain craziness, but I do believe in the mental effect of that. And when it comes to AI, AI could have an immense effect on that one. At first, I like doing human stuff. I try to go in the human way with all of my ventures. It's easy. It's me, it's like establishing processes. And since I haven't done much in the fitness world from a business perspective, I'm still A/B testing stuff, but the concept is definitely there. It's a bunch of CEOs in one room, and it's discipline, it's suffering and it's wisdom. That's the best part of it, is like, we're suffering and I'm dropping wisdom on these guys, so that basically I have a theory, when you're in pain and when there's all these cocktails of chemicals in your brain, the information, it gets really deep. So yeah, the insights get really deep in that one. And then once I'm done with that basic process, by the way, I think I charge like 500 to $1,000 per CO at these events for 3 to 4 hours, and then they'd have a badge that they could put up, just like an Ironman badge, but it's cool because they don't have to buy a fucking bike or learn swimming and all of these things. They can go through the full training and have that certification. And guess what? If they're bitches, like they don't get this certification, I'll be like really like straight with them, and that people need to deserve the badge that they're given. Anyway, for the AI version of it, it could be Coach Charles, which would be on it, would like be an AI avatar doing some squats with them. That could be that could be a concept. But what would be very nice there could be an AI that takes data from them, right? And know about their problem. They're having these fights with their wives. Their kids are messing around with them. Their business is not doing fine. They have that person named Tom, which is always fucking with them in their business. And then and they would be making push-ups, and it's like, are you gonna fire Tom, or are you gonna be a bitch, And did you have enough of that? Are you gonna man up and be the true leader that you can, or are you gonna keep cutting corners here? And that could be like the type of advice or pep talk they would get. It would be personalized to them, and it would be related to their goals, right? Or we could hit them straight up in their emotions. Think of your dad that passed away, and that you used to go to the park with him. Your dad died because he didn't take care of himself, and he wants you to have a better life. So finish this workout, for example. And the cool thing, last thing that I'll add here, because I'm going on a tangent, but I'm really passionate about that. It's really game changing, this thing. When we finish the workout, there's all these endorphins, right? Like, you just did 1,000 push-ups, it's just crazy. And you can get really deep in a meditation. So they finish that, and we go in a deep meditation, and then the AI could be, congrats, you've done it. You're on the other side now. You can relax. You can visualize yourself in the next 7 days, the changes you're gonna make in your life. Even finishing this workout, you can start making a list, and tomorrow you'll start executing on that, and just go in a deep meditation that is deeply customized and personalized to them. So that could be a very cool use case right there.
Amazing. And I feel like that definitely already answered my next question, which was what lessons from your fitness endeavors have you applied to entrepreneurship? Many, it seems.
Yeah, the entrepreneurial life is hard, and life itself, even without entrepreneurship, is hard. It's ups and it's downs, and guess what? Nowadays, I'm like, this 15 to 20 minute meeting stint, it's not easy. Starting to wear on myself. I've put, like, not this weekend. This weekend I'm hitting a Spartan Race Ultra. So that's why I don't have an ultra hit in my calendar, because I'm already doing one. But the one after that, I'm popping an ultra hit again. So I'll just start a YouTube live and probably be alone, but I'll crunch it by myself, because I always need to be my own rat lab when I start a business. And yeah, one last thing with these is that I also sponsor charities, in these. So I suffer for a cause. So that's really cool as well. So all CEOs that come in these workouts, they could sponsor a cause. So if they pay me 1K, well, 15% or 10 could go to a charity, for example. My idiot dog is stuck in the wire.
Okay, dog, welcome here.
Yeah, he almost disconnected the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Please calm down, dog. And to what you were asking, the full entrepreneurship game, I'm quite stubborn genetically, but it's so hard that if you don't push yourself to your limit and force adaptation, and learn to manage stress to sheer exposition, which can be done very easily in sports, then you're likely to fail. You're likely to burn out. I have a theory about burnout, and it's not that, you have too much, or that it's piling up and you can't handle anymore. It's just that there's no adaptation. Adaptation, it comes with recovery, yes. But let's say that you're in a job and you have a toxic boss, right? Well, he will never let you grow in any ways. And that leads to burnout. It's just that you don't have any growth, because whatever you try, you can't grow with that person. So that is the way. So in entrepreneurship, yes, there's natural growth, but sometimes you get stuck, So sports is another mechanism that just changes your perspective, puts all these chemicals into you, and forces pain on a very high level. So people should use it as a tool to grow.
Love that. Really love that. And look, I was looking at your book as well, A CEO's 167 Thoughts. It's a pretty interesting venture too. And I just want to know how you balance the demands of being an entrepreneur, a coach, an author, and everything else, and what inspired you to share your thoughts in that format.
Right. It's chaotic, and life is pretty unpredictable, like I have a certainty in life. If you would ask like Elon if he would be that successful to this day, he would say yes. I will say yes to you, but a bunch of people, they would look at what I do and they'd be like, yeah, that guy's not focused or anything. But life is so complex. My internal systems and this environment in which I am, it breeds complexity. So I'm not sure. I mean, like, no one is sure if they'll ever reach their goals in the future, but I'm 99.999% sure that I will reach my goals with this formula of pure chaos and investing my time here, investing my time there. With this book, it's another experiment, so that's aligned with my philosophy. It's pretty bad, the book, and I'm glad that my team weren't successful at publishing it on Amazon. It's basically a bunch of LinkedIn polls that I did over time, and we packed it up in a book. A book can be good for signs of authority. If you want to sit down for now, my strategy with books is just to assemble a bunch of polls that I did on my LinkedIn. Usually they're about 300 words. And that one, yeah, is a chaotic amalgamation of my mind, So it's mostly about business. There's wealth stuff and there's biohacking stuff. And these are my thoughts. And I write down everything that way for one AI related reason. And it's that all the breadcrumbs to my future success will be there for those that want to reproduce it, but also very selfishly, it will be like breadcrumbs for myself to analyze where I was in that time and why did I get the results that I got. So it's nice for that reason. And it's also a nice peek for people that are curious about another mind to be like, oh, this is how he thinks, and maybe I can add that to my own library of data and see if it's a good opinion or not, A/B test it and see if it sticks or not.
Nice. Well, you certainly have a unique way of thinking, Charles, and I will be reading that as your number one fan. I'm sure you know. Just a few questions now so the audience can get to know you a little bit more on a personal level as well. We'll call it a quick fire round, but it doesn't have to be that quick. Okay. Weirdest thing you've ever done?
That's a good one.
One of the weirdest things.
Close a cell naked.
Awesome. Okay. Best and worst thing that's ever happened to you?
Best, entrepreneurship. Worst, education system.
Wow. Interesting. Okay, your favorite and least favorite country and why?
Favorite country, Mexico. That's easy. The people, the cost of life, the economic growth here is impressive. Worst country, Morocco. I don't like their culture. They sort of mistreat women's. We didn't feel safe there. I got my cell phone stolen.
Wow. Sorry to hear that. but at least you're not there now. Favorite place to hang out when you're just on your own, chilling?
My roof, there's a view of the full city. I can look at the sky. There's trees all over. So yeah, that's where I hang out. Plus I have sun. I can get sun exposure and vitamin D in me.
Awesome. What do you eat for breakfast?
Nothing.
Ah,
But nowadays I'm changing my diet after the Spartan Ultra, which is 50 kilometer and it's a bunch of obstacle like 60 or 70. I'll be bodybuilding, so I'll like eat 7 times a day.
yeah. But other than that, intermittent fasting, right?
Yeah, if you don't have the goals to bodybuild, intermittent fasting is definitely the way to go for longevity, right? And also it's less time consuming, so definitely a go-to.
Nice. And final one of these, what do you consider the best AI product out there? If someone was to just get one product, what would it be?
Yeah, Clay, I would say, because you can basically prompt GPT for anything, right? Hey, GPT, find me companies that have the keyword podcast on their website, right? Because database building is complex and we need something to reason to understand truly what the company is about, to do things at scale. And Clay allows us to basically do anything. And even before, well, that's in my field, right? But for anyone out there, it's obvious that it's ChatGPT. That's the best product of all time, that a chat that can answer anything and can customize an email, can write a job description. And yeah, it's such a great assistant.
Amazing. Well, I guess finally, how do you see artificial intelligence impacting the future of podcasting, particularly in the terms of content creation and audience engagement?
Yeah, it's gonna have a humongous impact. You can see on YouTube the Joe Rogan AI, just to have an overview of that. So celebrities could send their AIs and podcasters could send their AIs. So both would have to spend 0 time. Then obviously on celebrities, they would be like, oh, I need to be careful of what my AI says. That would be pretty funny. But some of them don't give a shit, right? Like Post Malone, if you see it's his interview with Joe Rogan. Obviously the publication, where it will be published by whom, so your AI would decide what you would listen and what you would not listen. And then we could talk a future when you'd have a Neuralink in there and what downloads you would actually get. Because podcasts are education tools for me. Yes, they're entertainment tool for a bunch, but for me, it's education. And I'm not sure about you, but for me, podcasts, it's like at least 50% responsible for my education as an entrepreneur. And I think AI will only accelerate that.
Absolutely. Well, look, is there anything else you would like to add or talk about today, Charles, before we close up?
Well, thank you for inviting me. I would just push people to get out of their comfort zone. Generally speaking, there's not a single human being here that is not comfortable enough. We have food, we have water, we have electricity, we have Wi-Fi, we have pretty much everything to make us Maslow happy, right? The Maslow pyramid. So just push yourself out there, just go take your running shoes and go run for a while. And yeah, just if you have people you're accountable to, just say, hey, sweetie, I'm going to be back in 3 hours, and just go run and just don't stop, and yeah, bring some money with you. If you're thirsty, go buy some water, but get out of your comfort zone, go run, use your legs, and don't bring even music, just be with yourself and with your own thoughts. That would be a nice exercise for anyone that have legs and that have shoes and that have a road to walk and run on.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being so inspiring today, Charles. Look, how can people find out more about you and where?
CharlesCormier.com, yeah, or Charles Cormier on LinkedIn or on Google.
Awesome. Well, that was Charles Cormier of Podpire, and that was the General AI Whisperer podcast, and we'll see you next time.